Appreciate you coming out on site today, and first of all we'd like to just give you a brief update of where the project is here at the 15-mile interceptor collapse. Essentially what is happening right now is we are building a cage. So in other words, what they have done is they've excavated on the top of the sewer interceptor. They've excavated 12 foot down, and they are now putting in over 200 3-foot metal pipes, piers. And they've put in over 200 of them already. I think hopefully in about another week or so we'll be done putting the piers. In each one of the piers they put in the concrete, and then they put a steel beam as well to stabilize this. Once they have the entire cage built on this shaft, and the shaft again is about 300 feet long, it's 25 foot wide. Right now with this excavation it's 12 foot deep, but as soon as that cage is done, they are going to be excavating down to 60 feet, right down to where the pipe is at. And then of course we'll be replacing that entire collapsed interceptor with this hose pipe. In addition to that, our long-term bypass is up and running, and it's running very, very well. We are pulling the sewage out and up 60 feet out of a manhole to the east of here quite a ways on the other side of Utica, and then we are running, of course, 2 parallel pipes down 15-mile road about 6,000 feet, and then we're dumping the sewage back in at a manhole down by Fontana Drive, again dumping it down 60 feet. So the pump station, the bypass entire pipe system there it really is an engineering marvel. It's an unbelievable engineering feat. And it has been working exceptionally well, and I always like to point out that we have not had to discharge any raw sewage into the Clinton River since the one and only discharge, which was on December 27th, a couple of days after this interceptor collapsed. But all through this, one of the rainiest seasons that we have had here on history, recorded history I guess, we have not had to discharge, and so we've avoided an environmental disaster so far with this, and we always like to point that out. Because as committed as we are to fixing this interceptor, we are all just as committed to protecting our environment. So the project is going really very, very well right now. These men and women that are on site here are working round the clock, 24/7, and they are really doing extraordinarily well. Now, one other thing that has happened as we've built this bypass and have had an opportunity to move the sewage, stop the sewage flow from the interceptor and put it into the bypass, we now have had a chance to get into the actual collapsed interceptor and inspect. And what we have found, probably to no one's surprise, immediately adjacent to the collapsed interceptor, running 3,700 feet to the east, is a pipe that is dangerously bad. It is in danger imminently of another collapse and perhaps sinkhole. And so we plan to line 3,700 additional feet, which has added on about $6 or $7 million to this project. But we have to do it. We've got videotape that has shown us that we've got gushers in there, weeping water. There's structural damage to that interceptor. Same pipe laid at the same time, same soil conditions. So again, no surprise. But time is of the essence. You can see what's going on out here. We are very, very cognizant of the impact that this is having on the neighbors that are here, on the businesses that are here, and we are doing everything that we can to keep this project on schedule and on time. And even with the additional work, we still expect to stay to our schedule, which is essentially getting done with this project by end of September. And hopefully everyone around the neighborhood here can get to Grandma's house for Thanksgiving, and that we could reconstruct actually the road this season as well. So everything has been going along just fine until we ran into a major hiccup with our financing, and that happened several weeks ago when the city of Sterling Heights, who is one of the 11 mid-communities, there are 11 communities in the Macomb Interceptor Drainage District that own this asset. And it's their ratepayers that have to pay for this, and everyone that's standing behind me here are one of the ratepayers, and so we know we have to pay to get this fixed. We've gotten some help from the state, as you know, $3 million, a direct grant. We also got an additional $2 million from the MDEQ, so about $5 million from the state. A little bit of drips and drabs in other places, but for the most part, our ratepayers are paying for this. So this has been a tremendous effort and a coming together of our community. It's been all hands on deck. Everybody has been working together, community to community. until Sterling Heights decided that their city council voted to file a lawsuit. And it should be noted that lawsuit was really, it just made it so difficult for the rest of us. Because of that lawsuit, as we are about to sell our bonds, and by the way, we were going to sell the bond, $70 million bond issue, yesterday, which obviously did not happen because of this lawsuit. And so we have to pay these contractors. We have to get this fixed, and we are going to get it fixed, and it has to be paid for. And everyone knew that they were going to be part of the bond issue. Sterling Heights has said that because of my predecessor, who they are alleging was both negligent and possibly corrupt, that they should not have to pay. That they should not have to pay. The Sterling Heights ratepayers should not have to pay their share. That's what they alleged in court. The judge, of course, basically said we could proceed with our bond issue. They threw out she dismissed one of the 2 counts that Sterling Heights was alleging there. And but still, you've got this appeal process out there, and so of course you have to disclose that to any investors that may want to buy our bond. And so it is hurting our interest rate. First of all, we won't be able to repackage and sell the bonds probably till the end of June. Now is sort of what we're looking at. As well, we're going to have to pay a premium on the interest. We're anticipating between $5 and $10 million additional costs just because of this lawsuit. No other reason. $5 or $10 million additional costs because of this lawsuit of Sterling Heights. And in addition to that, we were also going to refinance the existing debt because this asset was purchased from the Detroit Water and Sewer Department back in 2009. So that refinance, again, which would have happened yesterday, would have resulted in $3 million plus of savings to the mid. That is not going to happen anymore. That's off the table, again, because of the lawsuit of Sterling Heights. So Sterling Heights basically says they shouldn't pay, that everybody in Macomb County should pay because Anthony Morocco was a county official. And that is what they're alleging, that everybody in Macomb County should pay. Now keep in mind there are 11 communities in the mid, and that means there's 16 other communities in Macomb County who are not in the mid. Now, if what they're saying were to actually happen, I'm just going to give you a couple of examples of other communities in Macomb County who Sterling Heights is now asking them to pay their share of their asset. And Warren, for instance, over the life of the bond would pay $14.3 million. If you're a resident of Warren and this is not your asset, I'm not sure that you would want to do that to help Sterling Heights out. Maybe. St. Clair Shores, $6.4 million. Roseville, $3.8 million. East Point, $2 million, and on and on. There's an entire list here which you can all take a look at. But at any rate, I don't believe that's going to happen because I don't think Sterling Heights will be successful. And it is really too bad that they have done this because, again, they've stopped us from our timeline on selling the bond to finance this project. You see all these contractors out here, they're all asking, are we going to get paid? That's the kind of anxiety that shouldn't be happening on an emergency situation like this. They need to be focused on their work. You see, residents have been calling us going, is everything going to be all right? How long is this going to go? Are we going into next year? So there's a lot of anxiety as well that has happened. I will just tell you, I feel very bad about what Sterling Heights has done. We tried everything we could to talk them out of it. I understand that their city council believes in their position, and I can appreciate that. But their city council has also been notified by myself in person, in writing, that we intend to assess them. The mid board will be assessing Sterling Heights for all of these additional costs. So I feel bad about that because as a county official, I also represent the citizens of Sterling Heights, not as their mayor, but as their public works commissioner. And their ratepayers, I believe, will now be looking at anywhere from $5 to $10 million of additional cost because of this lawsuit, which I thought was very misguided. But there's no way that every other member of the mid community, these other communities, should be paying, because we had a conference call just last week. Sterling Heights was on the conference call, their city manager, their mayor, their attorney, everyone had plenty of time to speak. We had state representatives that represent the mid. We had county commissioners that represent the mid. We had the other 10 communities that represent the mid. And to a person, every one of them told Sterling Heights, please don't continue with this lawsuit. All of them. So you can talk to anybody that represents this area outside of Sterling Heights, and I think you'll find we're all very united. We all feel very bad about what Sterling Heights is going to do. We appreciate that they have the they can do that, but they're going to pay for it, and they apparently are willing to play with matches here and take that risk. I think that's an unfortunate thing.
Just curious, what's their share?
And with that, their share is about $22 million before interest, I believe.
And let's clarify that. They pay about a third of it because of the number of people that contribute to it. So it's not that their ratepayers are paying a third more. Everybody is paying the same. No matter where you're at in those 11 communities, you're paying the same rate. So to say that Sterling Heights is paying a third of it is because they got more people that are participating in this system, meaning there are more residents, if you will. So anybody who gets this impression that they're paying more than their fair share, that is not true. They're paying their fair share. But it was ill-conceived, and I say that because even as a county's perspective, the thought that we wouldn't pull back on a bond or consider that and to put that out there and say, you know what, we're going to force this issue, we know that you're going to be afraid not to back the bond with full faith and credit, was very misguided and very untrue. And I say that for this reason. How could I possibly, as a county executive, say, you know what, okay, let's continue on, we'll pay their portion of this and assess that throughout the entire county, as was just mentioned here. Why should Warren have to pay for it? Why should Mount Clemens have to pay for it? Why should these other 11 members, the 10 members that are left over, pay a higher percentage of it? When we know full well what you're talking about in this lawsuit was an attempt to get the people that they represent to believe, to get them to believe that they're standing guard on their behalf. They were not. I mean, this was ill-advised, and the reason for it is this: to sue the county. To ask the mid-board to sue the county, it's really, I don't understand what they're talking about. Sue the county. The county is taxpayers. That's what the county is. The county is ratepayers. So when they're saying sue the county, the question becomes, the county, this is not their asset. This is a drain district belonging to an 11-member community. There was a drain board that was in place. Now, if they've got an issue with Tony Morocco, I understand that. That's the reason why this lady here, Candace Miller, ran for the office and why I supported her, because there needed to be change there, and I couldn't agree more that there were problems in that office. But if they got a problem, they want somebody else to pay for this other than ratepayers and taxpayers, go after Tony Morocco, not the county, because really it's not only ill-conceived, it's going to be faint-hearted. It's not going to go anywhere. So we're convinced, there's anybody that's looked at us isn't convinced, but then again, they too were convinced that the county would still back this with full faith and credit, and it wasn't going to affect the sale of the bond. Well, they're right. We're going to move forward with the sale of the bond, but the unfortunate reality is the cost of that bond now, because of that premium of what just happened, went up. And as that went up, so did every one of our rates. And that was really what was, we tried to warn them about that. And so, you know, the position that I think the drain board is taking here, saying, we tried to warn them. Every one of these member communities tried to weigh in, tried to get them to understand it, but for some reason they didn't. I think it was more because they wanted to truly think they could get their public, or the residents that voted them in, to believe that they're there standing guard on their behalf. Well, every one of these members of the community, I don't care if it's Harrison Township, Clinton Township, they too care about the residents, but they understood what this was and what this meant. We're going to have to pay for this system to fix it. So it's getting fixed, but at a higher cost now as a result of what took place.
Candace, can you talk about, is there a per customer cost? In other words, there's $22 million. What's the per customer cost going to end up being?
For Sterling Heights, I'm not sure exactly, but I will tell you that generally we've said with the cost of this bond that for the average ratepayer, it'd probably be $25 to $30 a ratepayer each year over the cost of the years of the bond. So now if it's an additional cost, you know, whatever that's going to be. In this case, though, it's going to be quite a bit more for the residents, the ratepayers, I should say, of Sterling Heights. As
10, 20, 30% premium? I mean, what are we talking about?
Really, we won't know until we sell the bond. We're just certain that we are going to pay a premium. I mean, I've talked to several different financial advisors and bond counsels, and they're all just saying, you know, we don't even want to tell you. It just depends. It depends what's being sold that particular day. It depends on how skittish the bond market gets about having the largest member of a drain district actually challenge the bond, so to speak, the assessment, so that it has to be disclosed in the documents to the bond market.
So the lack of unity here is costing everybody.
It is absolutely costing everybody, and I would ask Bob Cannon, who is the supervisor of Clinton Township, which is literally right across the road here. His residents are watching him right now, and he's been very impacted by this. I don't know if you have anything to add, Bob.
Certainly. Directly behind me, you see a 3-story building where we have seniors that are living and hearing the noise that you're hearing right now 24 hours a day. We have had great leadership with Mrs. Miller. We're very happy with that. But Sterling Heights, a great community and a lot of great leaders, has made a serious error. All of us who are in elected positions throughout the county agree on that, except those in Sterling Heights. So we're happy to proceed. My biggest fear was the project was going to stop and you'd have a hole right out here. You'd have this mess on 15 Mile Road. We've had a problem on Garfield Road. Not a problem because we needed those pumps to secure the safety of all the residents who have sewers and backups in their basements. We didn't want that. So we have been living on the edge. And we're happy the project is going to continue. That was my biggest worry, that it would stop. So thank you for that, Candace. And we wish Sterling Heights would reconsider so we can get on with business.
You know, we actually did consider stopping this project. We started trying to run the numbers, right? How much more is this going to be, and would it be better to stop and wait till these lawsuits are settled or what have you? But I'll tell you, and I've talked to almost everybody here, and the thing that got me, I think, more than anyone or any other thing, this bypass I keep talking about. If somebody runs into that bypass or we have some huge storm, and all of a sudden we have to dump millions of gallons of raw sewage into the Clinton River in our beautiful Lake St. Clair. First of all, I don't know how you quantify that monetarily. That is an environmental disaster. And I also, and I mentioned this to Mark and some of the others, some of these businesses, like this poor Green Lantern right across the street, who has the best pizza in the world, by the way, go ahead and stop there. But I mean, what they have been going through, I'm just not going to walk in there and tell her, you know what, we'll be back next year. I'm not having that conversation because of a misguided lawsuit by Sterling Heights. So we are going to continue. We're going to get this thing fixed. This is what Macomb County is all about. And again, I think it's unfortunate what's happened with Sterling Heights. And I'm not sure if anybody else would like to add to it. Mayor Nichols from Fraser, you're right here.
Thank you, Commissioner. I have had multiple conversations with many of the members and thank them because we're all in this together. I thank the executive, and of course we know how I feel about the job that the commissioner's done. I had a conversation with the mayor of Sterling Heights, and I asked the mayor, you weren't the mayor at the time when this happened in '04, but why weren't you advocating for those inspections that you say caused the problem now then? When we assumed this as the mid in 11, why weren't you at the forefront then advocating for these inspections? Now, you've taken all the benefits of being a mid-member, and when it comes down to it and we all have to pitch in and we have to work together, no, I don't think I want to be involved anymore. I understand protecting your ratepayers. That's what we're all here to do. That's what the commissioner's here to do. That's what the county executive wants to do. It was very poor timing, and it really put a division in the county that shouldn't be there.
I'd like to ask
and to that point real quick, it was interesting because during this process, prior to the election even taking place, I was trying to change the direction of the actual mid-board itself to try to figure out how do we change this statutorily in Lansing. I got zero support out of Sterling Heights from this mayor to help me do that. And yet even Candace Miller, prior to actually taking office, was supportive of changing the mid-board because we knew there needed to be a different board that was more transparent for people to see. So it's interesting, as Joe had mentioned, where were you then? Now all of a sudden you want to cause all this headache for everybody as if now you want to stand guard on behalf of your ratepayers. That, I mean, to sit there and hear him say that really is disappointing because that couldn't have been further from the truth prior to January 1st. And then to blindside us at the 11th hour to say we're going to come up with this lawsuit when we've been fully transparent, having these conversations, and costing this project more than what it needs to be for a reason that he thinks there might be some settlement down the road. And that's what I want to focus on too. Even if there were an opportunity to sue the county, which once again are taxpayers, even if there was, this is 5, 10, 15 years out from now. So somebody's still going to have to fix this problem before that lawsuit comes. And if you're going to do that, pay in your fair share, and if you were by chance successful down the road, that's when you make your taxpayers whole. But right now, you're costing them a lot on a if come or a happen chance. And I got to believe, based upon everything I know and talking to legal people that I understand, this is not only ill-conceived, but ill-advised because it's going nowhere as a result.
Real quickly, I know you guys had asked the mayor why this wasn't brought up earlier. I guess the reverse question could be asked of county officials who had to deal with Mr. Morocco. Why wasn't this brought up earlier?
It's not a county asset, never was. It was a drain board. He had full autonomy to run that office. That's been my angst for years. For 6.5 years, that's been my concern about that office. The drain commissioner had full control over that with lack of transparency. I had a FOIA. It took me 45 days to get a response from a FOIA for 2 lawsuits, by the way. And these 2 lawsuits totaling $5.8 million to 2 separate law firms. And you're going to be asking for those documents. You're going to be getting those. You're going to find out that that was money paid for out of this drain district that should have never happened. I brought that to Sterling Heights' attention as well. So I had a FOIA and was put arm length away documentation from a public official that was elected countywide. Why? Because he had full autonomy. I had no control over that office. They had control because it was a contractual relationship, yet they still did absolutely nothing to help me get those documents or to try to force change within that office and the structure of that board.
Candace, can I ask
I'm going to ask Bob Smith, who's the chairman of the County Board of Commissioners, to make a couple comments. Bob, if you'd like to as well.
Thanks, Candace. Listen, I just want to speak a second to the common sense of this. The mayor is purporting to save his taxpayers' money, and that's what he's fighting for. However, what he's about to do is cost his taxpayers money. We all know that this suit could have been filed after the bond sale. If we would have been filed after the bond sale, we would have been able to save the over $3 million on refinance. We would have been able to get the low interest rate. He could have then proceeded with this suit, and he was well aware of this. I know Executive Hackle made him aware of this, and several other attorneys. So to come out and purport that you're for your residents and you're trying to save them, it really doesn't make logic. It doesn't make common sense, because what he's going to do is cost them more. Because when they lose the suit, which Executive Hackle spoke about, we've talked to several attorneys. This suit is it's weak at its best. So to think that they're going to come and win this is ridiculous. So what he's basically done is put them in a position where not only are they going to pay more for the residents, but probably be subject to us coming back for them for all the extras, so that the other communities that complied with this and were a part of this wouldn't be left on the line for that additional money. So that's all I have to say, and we're with you with the county all the time on this with the board.
That.
Candace, I have a technical question. Could you come a little closer to the
Yes,
mic, please?
sure.
You're saying that you've got another sinkhole on the other side of this.
A potential.
Potential.
Yes.
Are you going to have to build another one of these cages on the other side in order to
No,
fix that?
because that's one of the things, to tell you the truth, we're getting a very good deal now on fixing the other 3,700 foot. First of all, we can slip the pipe in. So because we have this shaft already built, this is the time to fix it right now, because we don't have to excavate. I think another 20 feet, that's about it, for 3,700 feet. And we'll be able to slip the pipe in. I just ordered the pipe. I haven't sold the bond yet, but I said order this pipe anyway, because we got it at 2013 prices. So we got a very good deal on that pipe, and we need to make sure that they're going to have the pipe made. It takes a while to make it. We're buying it from Texas, and ship it here and keep on our schedule here. But no, they don't have to build another a shaft all the way on the top.
Candace, real quick, where's the money going to come from, since the bond sale was supposed to be yesterday and then next week and now not for another month? Where's the money going to come from to pay for the contract?
We literally just paid invoices yesterday, and that money was, all these monies were approved by the MID, different contractors and so on and so forth, engineers, etc. And that is the last of the 20 million draw that the county, and when Mayor Taylor or others say the county needs to step up, they have stepped up. The county stepped up and gave us a $20 million line of credit, and we have now spent all of that money. So we have a little bit of money in reserve, as I mentioned, this grant money that we got from the state, and we're trying to cobble together some other monies, and we hope to be able to keep everybody paid here until we sell the bond. We feel that we will be able to do that, but it's cutting it really close. Every day is a bit of an angst here.
Have you guys heard if they're actually going to appeal the decision from Monday, or where they stand in terms of filing any new litigation or an appeal?
They said they were not going to appeal count 1 at this time, but they would not give up their right to appeal, which is really what is handicapping us. We have to disclose that to an investor in the bond market. And of course, the other thing that their other count, there were 2 counts. The other count was to have the MID board, that's 3 county employees, right? Myself, Executive Mark Hackle, or his designee, who is Brian Santos from the Road Commission, and the commissioner who has the largest apportioned share of whatever district it is. In this case, the MID, and so that's Rob Myjack, who's the Sterling Heights County Commissioner. So anyway, Sterling Heights wants us 3 to sue the county. And that is not going to happen. We're not suing the county. So that's their other, I don't know how they will do on that. I think their chances of winning on that are 2, Slim and none, and Slim just left town. So I don't think they're going to be successful in that lawsuit. And as I say, the thing that is, there's a couple of things that really bother me about this. First of all, I feel very bad because I think what Sterling Heights is doing, and they have been a good regional player and a leader as a regional player, they are now putting communities against them. And that's an unfortunate thing that can have manifest itself in negative ways for a long time to come. I mean, I've already talked to some of the people in Lansing who sent us the $3 million, and one of them in particular said it's a darn good thing we already wired you that money, or we'd be thinking twice about it. What is going on down there? That's not the kind of thing that we want to present as a united front here. So certainly that part. And then as well, again, being an official who represents Sterling Heights in my current capacity, I feel very bad that I'm going to have to assess them all because of this lawsuit that their city council has brought. But I don't have any choice. I mean, as a member of the mid board, I represent 11 communities, and 10 of the 11 are very upset and do not want to pay because of all these additional costs that Sterling Heights has brought. So as I say, that additional assessment will be levied against the ratepayers of Sterling Heights because of the lawsuit brought by their city council.
Is it just going to be against the residents of Sterling Heights, or will it be
Yes.
them and everybody else in the mid?
Them.
So whatever the extra cost is, that 5 to 10 million will be assessed against that community specifically.
I'm going to be recommending that to the mid board, yes, once we figure out what all the additional costs are.
Because of the lawsuit.
Because of the lawsuit, entirely because of the lawsuit.
And it's not punitive. I mean, the point being is this. All these other communities, the other 10, were ready to move forward. They understood the issue. We tried everything we could to get them to understand, I guess if you will, the ill-fated decision that they were about to make, and try to warn them that this is going to be catastrophic, it's going to be a problem, it's going to increase the rates, don't do this. Yet they went ahead and still did it anyway, so why should they suffer the additional increase? The residents of those communities that were led by their leaders saying, hey, we get it, it's ours to fix, let's fix it, it's going to cost us money, we understand that. But to say, you know what, well, okay, the rates went up, it's going to cost more, you all have to kick in too, even though you were prepared to do the right thing right at the beginning. And it was just, again, it's a difficult thing to do, but it was one that the city officials, their elected officials, brought about themselves. It's not something that anybody wants to do, but really it's not fair to the rest of these communities to make them pay that cost.
So why did this
Actually, one other thing their attorney said in court, and I couldn't quite follow all this, but because they are saying that my predecessor should have inspected and he was negligent and he should have done, maintenance, etc. If you think about it, when I tell you we're going an additional 3,700 foot, we inspected, we know we have to maintain that pipe, we know we have to do different things and fix that pipe. So that's an additional $6 or $7 million, and their attorney said we don't object to that. So I'm not sure exactly how they plan on pulling that piece out, but I thought that was an interesting sidebar.
Are you guys going to be talking, and I don't know if there's been any talk since, about filing separate litigation against Mr. Morocco because he was in this position when all of this should have been going on? Is MID going to do that?
Hard to do. I mean, if you look at what happened as far as the actual accounting, when we went through that, did the forensic accounting of what happened in there are a lot of things that he had the autonomy to go ahead and do, which I think were very inappropriate, and that's basically where we're at with it. A lot of the things he did were inappropriate. I'll use two examples. The lawsuit that dealt with the city of Detroit during that Great Lakes Water Authority, $3.8 million, and then the other one against the OMIT. So going after OMIT to try to take control of OMIT. He used ratepayer money out of that drain district when he should not have. And this is what I brought to the attention of Sterling Heights when this was happening, saying we found this out through FOIA. He should not have spent that money. Drain district, those 11 member communities should never have paid for that. And the reason he did it, because he had the autonomy to do it, he wouldn't come to the Board of Commissioners asking for that kind of money because they never would have given him that money. It would have never been okayed. It would have never got through me, which first he would have had to do. And even if it did, the Board of Commissioners would have never said, yeah, go ahead and sue, and waste all that money. But he did it, and the question becomes, why isn't somebody going after him for that? Well, because quite honestly, he had the autonomy to go ahead and do what he did. Sterling Heights needed to call him into check, not the county. That isn't not an asset owned by the county. It's an asset owned by those members from that drain district, not the county.
All right, anybody else have a question or comment?
Unrelated, there was an accident along the bypass last night, a motorcycle. Did that cause any damage to the bypass?
No, they did not hit the bypass. They hit a piece of pipe that was separated from the bypass. And our thoughts and prayers are with this young man. And I understand that he was driving his motorcycle and somehow got into our construction zone. And that was an unfortunate incident. But I've also heard that he's going to be okay. And fingers crossed, I hope I have the correct information. But no, he did not hit the bypass. It was right down here by the Green Lantern or Buffalo Wild Wings, approximately in that area there, coming out of one of those parking lots, as I understand it.
So no damage done to them?
No damage done to the bypass. No, he hit a different pipe.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thank you all very much.
Thanks.